911 emergency, what are you reporting?
I just went away from home because I live in a family of 15, and we have abusing parents. Did you hear that?
Okay, how did they abuse you?
My two little sisters right now are chained up.
Okay, how old are you?
I'm 17.
When a 911 operator for Riverside County receives a strange call from what sounds like a very confused child, she has no idea of the horrors about to be revealed to her. This call, made by a nearly adult woman, will blow open one of the most shocking and horrifying cases of child and dependent adult abuse in U.S. history. In the very early morning hours of January 14, 2018, a home security camera in Paris, California, captures what looks like a young child fleeing from what seems to be a typical suburban house. The child runs shakily down the driveway before picking up speed once hitting the sidewalk and disappearing from view. This is 17-year-old Jordan Turpin, and though she's been planning for this moment for almost 2 years, she still has no idea what she's about to do will change the course of her family's lives forever. Interestingly, another person, this one looking to be older, also emerges from the house and moves quickly down the street off camera, though in the complete opposite direction, only to return a few minutes later and re-enter the house. At the same time, Jordan makes it to a corner down the block where she stops beneath a stop sign and, with hands shaking violently, dials 911.
I just ran away from home.
Okay, do you know where you are?
I'm actually in California, Paris.
Do you know what street you're on?
No.
Do you see any signs or anything, like any street signs?
No, I don't.
The operator speaks with her for a minute before realizing this is a matter for the sheriff's department and asks Jordan to hold on 1 second while she transfers her. Jordan agrees and stands, panting in the darkness, full of adrenaline and fear that at any moment her parents will appear out of the shadows.
It's BHB with the transfer. She's not sure where she's at. She says that she's in Paris and she ran away from home.
Okay. Hello? Hello?
Oh, yes, I'm still here.
What's your name?
Jordan Turpin.
The operator asks her to spell her last name, and Jordan tries, although she misspells it both times the operator asks.
Turpin. Do you need my address?
Yeah, what's your address?
Okay, you got to give me a minute. It's going to take a while.
Here, Jordan pauses, taking a couple of deep breaths before doing her best to provide an answer.
I live in... Okay, this is my address. 9257 Case. Did you get that?
Case? Is it C-A-S-E?
Okay, sorry. I'm going to start over. My address is 925705574. Did you get it?
Okay, so now you just gave me a whole bunch of numbers. You didn't give me any kind of street name there.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry.
Okay, so you're just around the corner from your house, is that right?
Yeah, I think. I'm not sure. I've never been out. I don't go out much, so I don't know anything about the streets or anything.
It's later revealed that Jordan has never been to school or received any kind of formal education whatsoever, so the fact she's able to offer anything at all is actually rather impressive. The operator asks Jordan a couple more questions about her location before getting to the heart of the matter.
Why did you leave your house?
What?
Why did you leave your house?
My parents are abusing. They abuse us. And my two little sisters right now are chained up.
Where are they chained up at?
On their bed.
Then there are 15 kids?
There's 13 kids. And then a mother and father.
Are you at a corner right now?
I might be.
Is there a street sign? Is there a pole with two names at the top?
I just see a stop sign.
Okay, can you go over and stand right at that stop sign?
Yes.
Shortly thereafter, Deputy Anthony Colaci, at the end of a long graveyard shift, pulls up to the curb, getting out to greet the small, disheveled figure standing alone in the darkness.
Hi, Jordan. Hi, what's going on?
Okay. I just ran away from home.
Okay.
And I live in a family of 15.
Okay.
Thank you so much. There's a mother and father, and then there's 13 kids.
Uh-huh.
And...
How old are the kids?
Okay, some of them are, my older sister's 29, the youngest is 2.
And they all live in the house?
Yes.
Even your 29-year-old sister?
Yes. Oh, yeah, they're kind of scared to ask to move out because of
their mother. Some of them have asked for a job before, and she acts like that's crazy and it would never happen. But, my 2 little sisters right now are chained up.
How old are they?
11 and 14.
And they're chained up?
Yes.
Where are they chained up at?
On their bed. They're chained up because they stole mother's food.
Uh-huh.
But, okay, yeah. And do you want to know why they stole mother's food?
Why?
Okay. All we ever eat, for like probably like 2 straight years or 3 or more, but we always eat the same things. But sometimes we do eat. I'm sorry if I talk too much. Okay. I've never talked to anybody out there, so I've never been alone with a person, so this is very hard for me to talk.
Despite Jordan's marked level of trepidation, she continues to divulge as much information as possible, though she clearly struggles to put it all into words. She picks up where she left off with the dispatcher during her 911 call in regards to Turpin family life and how little the children were fed.
I don't know much about my mother. She doesn't like us. She doesn't spend time with us ever.
Who takes care of you?
I take care of myself, and Mother does buy food for us, so she feeds us.
Okay. All we ever eat is peanut butter sandwiches. Sometimes they tell Mother that they're hungry, but she has to give it to them. And then when they throw up, she says, "You're supposed to tell me if you're hungry, I'll give you something." And then they try to tell her, and she just like, "Okay, go on." So...
You've never been outside before?
Okay, I've been outside.
Do you go to school?
No. I haven't finished first grade.
Jordan, having been sheltered from the outside world, is painfully apparent when she concedes that she isn't familiar with the most basic of health-related terminology.
Okay, does anybody at the house take any kind of medication?
Oh, I don't know what medication is.
Any medicines?
When we have a cold, sometimes we take Robitussin. I don't know. We don't take medicine much when we're sick.
Right, so...
How did do your parents know you left your house?
No, they don't.
Do you take any medication?
What's medication?
Medication?
Yeah, what's medication?
Do you take pills? Do you take pills?
Oh, I don't think I've ever taken a pill before.
Okay.
Right, I haven't. But...
What about your other siblings? Do they ever go outside?
Okay. Mother treats them right. They're like, they go out every day when she goes out, but she takes turns sometimes. It's 2 right now. But when was 1, was crying, and Mother knocked on her head with a pencil, and she just turned 1. And we was like noticing stuff, like, we was like, did get amnesia? Because she started acting weird after that. And so,
So you don't go to school?
right, I don't go to
Do your
school.
parents, do they let you go outside?
I've never, we don't even go in the backyard. And our parents are abusing. They abuse us. But the reason I called and the reason I managed to get out here, this is one of the most scariest things I've ever done. I'm terrified. But I called because my 2 little sisters, they're chained up right now. And they...
Do you have pictures of that?
Yes, I can show you. I actually didn't have it, and then one of my sisters told me I need to get pictures.
You have pictures of your sisters chained up?
Yes, but they're in here. I don't have proof of everything, but I have proof that my sisters are chained up. So see, here you can look at them. See, those are the places that make it on them, and that's. And see how dirty she is. We are so filthy. We don't take baths. We don't.
Is there a cell phone number
No, that's
to this?
No.
Can I look at? Do you have any other photos?
You might be able to see it. Yes, those are just photos of me.
Do you have any other photos of people in chains?
No. Okay, yes, I have pictures and videos, but they're on my camera, and I have to. That would take forever. But it's just that's all I have is them chained up, and you already saw that.
Have you lived in other states?
Yeah, Texas.
Did they act like this when you lived in Texas?
They acted different. They actually banned all of their kids in a house, and they left us there for like 4 years, and then later they came back and picked us up. But they're living with us right now.
As the Texan neighbors of the family would later report, the family, who'd moved to Texas in the late 90s, kept entirely to themselves until a decade later, when they apparently fled in the middle of the night without a word of explanation. When neighbors went over to the mobile home to check on the dogs that had been abandoned there, they were shocked and horrified by what they saw. The dogs had apparently been found surviving off the used diapers left amid the other trash and feces left in the home, and the doors and refrigerator all bore padlocks and frayed ropes tied to the multiple bare bunk beds. It would later come out that this was where the Turpins had abandoned all but 2 of their children for at least 3 years, while they themselves lived in an apartment nearby, only coming by once a week to drop off a small amount of food.
Sometimes we live in silt, and sometimes I wake up and I can't breathe because how dirty the house is. We never take baths. I don't know if we need to go to the doctor, but sometimes we think stuff might be wrong with us, and we tell Mother, and she just says, go on.
When was the last time you had a bath?
I don't know, almost a year ago.
What if I went to your parents' house right now? What would they tell me?
I'd be terrified. If you went to my parents' house, they couldn't see me.
How did your sisters get like this?
Okay.
Your parents chained them up?
Yes, because they stole food.
Okay.
But they stole it because they were hungry.
You make sure to save these, okay?
Okay, I will.
Don't get rid of those.
I will. I won't. Yes.
Okay. Can you do me a favor? Take a seat in the back of my car?
Yes.
We're going to go around the corner, okay?
Okay.
And take a seat back here, okay?
By this point, the deputies heard enough. He radios for backup and escorts Jordan to the police car to be driven to the family home. He reassures her she doesn't have to see her parents. On the way over to the house, Deputy Kalachi asks Jordan a few more questions.
Do you have any injuries?
What's injuries?
Are you hurt?
Oh, no, not right now.
Okay. Are your parents sleeping?
No, they're out. I think they're out. They probably noticed me missing.
Have you ever tried to escape before?
Yes, I have.
How much would it cost to take me to Nevada? Nevada? No, not Las Vegas, just Nevada. Just the border, just at the very beginning of Nevada. Yeah. How much would it cost? Huh? No. No, I'm 18. Okay, a couple hundred? I'm not going. I'll take a bus. Yeah, thanks. Bye.
And what happens when you try to?
My parents never tried to. My parents never caught me. But my older sister has run away, and she caught her. And she was, I think, just turned 20.
Yeah.
And her sister caught her and brought her back home, and she got in so much trouble.
So what other things do your parents do to you guys?
They abuse us, and they say things to us that hurt our feelings. But we don't take showers and stuff. We live in fields, and we tell our parents that.
Has anybody ever been to your house before to check on your welfare?
Like
Have any of your other siblings called the cops?
No. Yeah. Some of them have wanted to, but they're too terrified.
What are your parents going to do when they find out you left?
They're going to want to literally kill me.
What's the worst thing they've done to you?
They have choked me against the bed, and
When was that?
2015.
Did you call the police?
I didn't have a way to get a phone yet. This is the first chance I got this phone back. Like, I got this phone probably, like, less than a month ago. But the next chance I got to call and run away was...
How did you get a phone?
Okay, it's my brother's phone. He was going to throw it away, and it wasn't used. And so I needed a way to call 911, and I asked my sister, would that be okay? And because we don't know much, and so... And
Why don't you know much?
Older sister.
Why don't you know much?
We don't go around. Our parents never tell us things. When we hear stuff, we're shocked. It took forever for us to figure out what our parents does is against the law. We took forever.
And even the 29-year-old doesn't know this?
Okay, the 29-year-old does. She knew it for a long time, but I think she's scared.
The sister, 29-year-old Jennifer Turpin, had in fact tried to escape once when the Turpin family lived in Texas, but without any form of education or identification, she was eventually forced to return home, where she was promptly punished.
Is there a phone number to that phone?
I don't think there is.
How did you call 911?
Well, you can call 911.
Oh.
I'm sure any phone that, even if it's not connected to that one, you can call 911.
So your parents, you're 17 years old?
Yes.
And throughout your whole life, you've never gone to school?
Right. I started first grade 2015 or 2016.
Uh-huh.
But,
How did you start first grade? Oh, in homeschool?
yes.
And you've never gone to school?
Right.
What else do your parents do to you guys?
Oh, my brother's chained up too right now.
They're chained up?
One of my brothers is chained up too. So 3 people are chained up right now.
How long have your parents been chaining you guys up?
Just this year. But they have tied up my brother.
Why did you decide to leave today?
It was the next chance I got that I could film.
How did you get a chance to get out?
Well, I was actually terrified. My mother was in the kitchen talking to the older ones, and she was laughing and stuff. And I was terrified, but she just got real mad. She just was doing stuff to my little sister, and I was just like, and she started saying that she was gonna just do stuff to us, and so I was just so scared, and I just left. I just went out the window. I don't.
So when you left right now, you left out the window?
Yes.
And your mom was awake when
Yeah,
she was in the other room?
Yeah.
Does your dad have a gun? Are there any weapons in the house?
Yes, but they don't use it.
How long have your mom and dad been married?
I don't know, probably 20, I don't know. She got married when she was 16.
Jordan is referring to her mother, 49-year-old Louise Turpin. According to both of Louise's sisters, Louise essentially ran away from home with the then 23-year-old David when she was only 16. David was from a highly respected and influential family in their hometown, and it was for this reason that Louise's parents gave their blessing for the two to get officially married.
Yes.
So all kids have the same mom and dad?
Yes.
According to David's parents, the reason he and Louise had so many children was down to them both being deeply religious in the Pentecostal faith, though the couple didn't attend a church or even have one near their home.
What else do they do besides chaining you up?
They abuse us.
How?
Sometimes they pull out our hair and they take us and Father doesn't abuse us. He abuses his son.
Or does your mom take you to the doctor?
Not all the time. There was one time we all went to the doctor, and that's because we were sick. And the doctor told us that if we were one day later, it would have been too late. She always waits for the last minute for everything.
Have the police ever got involved with this?
No.
Well, why don't you guys just leave the house?
Because we're terrified. We don't really have a way. Everyone's always looking. There's always somebody.
Well, you said your mom's always gone, right?
Right.
Well, why don't you just leave?
Either she leaves one of the older ones there, and our house, it makes a beeping noise.
This beeping noise was actually just the low battery sound from the smoke detectors in the Turpin's home. It seems Jordan is under the impression that this was a signal from some sort of security system. At this point, the other officers pull up to the scene and Deputy Kalachi steps out of the car to direct them. It's now 7 a.m. and the sun has started to rise on this cool January morning when they approach the front door and knock loudly for a couple minutes.
Hi. Hi. Sorry to bug you.
How you guys doing?
Good.
We got a call for a check the welfare here at your house. So
For what?
check the welfare. So just basically check on everybody, make sure everybody's okay. is
Yeah,
all.
why?
Do you guys have kids in the house?
Yes.
Okay, do you mind if we come in and just take a look, make sure everybody's safe and everything's okay?
Okay, what kind of call did you get?
Well, we got a call that there was a young female walking around saying that she came from a house over here. We were able to find out that this was a house, and we just wanted to check and make sure everybody was okay.
Think she came from here?
That's what she said.
From inside this house?
I think so. Otherwise, we wouldn't be knocking on your
Did
door
she
at
say
Sunday.
her name?
I don't know. Did she say her name?
I don't know offhand, but we need
don't
to
know.
check.
We just need to check and make sure everybody's okay.
You'll notice the officers are careful not to mention Jordan by name, to not implicate her to her parents' faces.
Once we get in, make sure everything's okay, we'll get out of here.
We have a lot where we're packing.
Okay,
We're getting
that's
ready
fine,
to
that's
move.
No worries.
So it's a mess in here. So.
All right, that's fine.
We don't mind messes. We've been
But
at
I
worst.
mean,
How you doing, sir?
I'm doing okay.
Okay.
we were just in bed. I mean, like.
Okay.
So most people are right now, so we expect you guys to be in bed.
Okay.
And no weapons in the house or anything like that?
No.
I do have a gun. It's locked up.
Okay. Locked up is good. We like that.
Okay.
Okay, well, we're going to come in and check, okay? We just want to make sure everybody's okay.
Well, do you have a search warrant or anything? Or
No.
we don't need one, sir?
As the officers prepare to carry out a warrantless search of the premises, they have determined there are exigent circumstances surrounding the current situation. Courts will typically look at the time when officers make the warrantless search or seizure to evaluate whether, at that point in time, a reasonable officer at the scene would have believed it was urgent to act and impractical to secure a warrant. Courts may also consider whether the facts suggested that the suspect was armed and planning to escape, whether a reasonable police officer would believe their safety or others' safety was threatened, and whether there was a serious crime involved. Police in hot pursuit of a fleeing criminal may also make use of the exigent circumstances exception. As officers push their way past the corpulent door jamb that is David and ease their way into the large open home, they're shocked and horrified by what greets them. Every inch of the 2,388 square foot house's floor is covered in mounds of rotting food and moldering trash, while the powerful stench of human waste hangs in the humid air. Strangely, there also seems to be several dozen unopened boxes and packages of children's toys and brand new children's clothing complete with tags seen peeking out of the monstrous piles of garbage.
All right. Well, like I said, sorry to bug you guys, but we just got this call. All we do is we just check and make sure everybody's okay. And
You got a call?
yeah, we got a call from, I'm not sure if it was the young girl that left or if it was a neighbor that saw her walking around the street. So we'll get to the bottom of it. As soon as we make sure everybody's okay, then we'll decide, we'll figure out if maybe she was one of your kids that wandered away. How many kids do you have?
13.
13 total?
Yeah.
Woo! You guys are busy.
Yeah.
Officers head to the back of the house to the children's bedrooms, 2 tiny back rooms, the first crammed with narrow bunk beds, but otherwise empty, and the second, which is crammed with both bunk beds and a filthy mattress, which is sitting on the floor with 2 little girls sitting listlessly on top.
Hi, sweetheart. Hi, girls. Can I see your wrist? Yeah.
Which one?
Okay.
The officers believe they found the room featured in Jordan's phone pictures and the 2 girls whose arms bear the chain-shaped bruises, but there's only one thing missing, the actual chains, leading them to believe the parents may have frantically unchained the girls as soon as they noticed Jordan was missing. The children, obviously frightened and wary of the strangers, give no answers, though eventually one does point them surreptitiously to a sliding closet door. Meanwhile, Officer Ogden is still by the door with David and Luis, distracting them with questions and small talk.
Where are you guys planning on moving to?
Oklahoma.
Oklahoma?
Yeah.
That's a long way away.
Yeah, it is.
You guys know family over there or anything like that?
my job's moving me.
Oh, okay. What do you do for work?
I'm an engineer.
Finally, as his eyes have adjusted to the gloom, Officer Ogden notices something to his left and suddenly realizes David Turpin may have had a reason to be awkwardly standing in that particular spot in the entryway.
Is this another bedroom back here?
Yeah.
You got another couple kiddos asleep there?
Yeah.
Sarge, you got another room in the front right here with 2 kiddos in the bed.
Officers enter the previously unnoticed 3rd bedroom, where they find 3 more motionless bodies in bunk beds, with one, a boy, who is chained by his wrists and ankles to the top bunk bed with heavy metal chains. Back in the girls' room, Officer Rodriguez slides open the closet door and looks inside.
Hi. All right, let's just go ahead and detain the parents at this point.
Ma'am, why don't you step over here for a minute?
Okay.
Okay, with you. And sir, step over here for a second.
Yeah.
Just step over with my partner here for a second. You got any weapons on you?
No.
Turn around real quick, I'm gonna check you out. Do me a favor, face that window over here.
Over this way?
Yep.
All right, sir. Go ahead. I'm gonna have you turn over here. We're gonna walk outside. All right.
Can I get my house shoes?
Where's your shoes at?
They're, Luis, you know if they're in the...
We'll have to find them for right now. Let's just walk out and we'll get you something. All right.
In the bedroom or the...
All right. Well, we got the other stuff we're dealing with, and we'll try to find you them. Okay.
You don't have any weapons on you, do you?
Nothing hidden in the bra or anything. Okay, just making sure because we have some people that do that, so we just want to make sure.
Like I said, I've never been in trouble.
Okay.
This is a first for me. And,
Okay. Well,
I don't understand.
I'll explain everything as
That's
soon as we make sure everybody's safe. Okay. Now let me ask you.
Yes.
Quickly, are there keys to the little locks?
Yes.
Okay. Where are they?
My son and daughter can get them.
Okay.
That's
so
in the house.
the ones that are in the house, they know where they are.
Yes.
Okay. All right.
Is that what this is about?
Well, that's part of it. Yeah, definitely. We need to make sure that the kids are safe and that they're not tied up.
Yeah,
so we need to get the chains off of them.
Yeah, I know.
So,
that's understandable, but I can
hey,
explain that.
This is mine, so go ahead and put her in that one.
While the parents are being detained, officers still inside the house begin a desperate search to find the key to free the chained child.
Does it work on his?
I know. The other one, that's what I was saying. The other one is in there. It looks different than that, but it's the same size.
It's in the drawer?
It's in the drawer that I was in.
And finally, the young boy is freed. All 13 of the Turpin children were immediately taken to the hospital to receive treatment for their severe malnutrition, bruises, and other injuries. Their ages were officially determined, and though all had the overall appearance of children under 18, more than half of them, in fact, were actually adults between the ages of 18 and 29. The 28-year-old weighed only 82 pounds at the time of rescue, and all of the children suffered cognitive impairment and nerve damage from the consistent lack of food. Investigators would learn that food was something the children were psychologically tormented with, as the parents would buy large food items, such as whole pies, then leave them out for the children to look at, but not eat. As it turns out, the unopened toys investigators saw around the house on the day of the rescue were bought for the very same reason. Investigators would also discover that none of the children were educated, and indeed, none would claim to have knowledge beyond that of an average third grader. David Turpin had filed documents with the county claiming he was running a school out of his home for children, but this was later proved to be completely false. The most they did was inform the children as to what grade they were supposed to be in, on the off chance a stranger asked them during one of their few ventures outside. With the oldest daughter Jennifer explaining, they loved to point out things in Deuteronomy saying that we have the right to do this to you, that they had the right to even kill us if we didn't listen. I was afraid to do one little thing wrong. If I did one little thing wrong, I was going to be beaten until I bled. Both of the Turpin parents were originally charged with 12 counts of torture, 7 counts of abuse of a dependent adult, 6 counts of child abuse or neglect, and 12 counts of false imprisonment for alleged crimes ranging from 2010 to the present, 2018. In addition, David Turpin was also charged with 1 count of lewd act on a child in 2018, which was then amended to include 3 additional counts of cruelty to a child and a felony assault charge for Luis. When interrogated by authorities, both parents were completely unwilling or unable to come up with a single viable reason for why they treated their children this way. And Luis even seemed confused by the questioning. She later wrote this letter to her children from her jail cell. It reads, "Father and I love you so much. We're so sorry for everything we've done wrong, and now realize that we had done some things wrong. Things will be so different in the future. The way you eat and outside time and baths will be done more regularly. I'm sorry this had to happen, but our future as a family will be so much better and stronger. We hope to see you guys soon. Love and kisses, Mom and Dad. I promise there will be no chains in the house again. That would never happen again. I'm so sorry. I love you so much and hope to see you soon." David had something different to say in a statement to the court. "Your Honor, I thank God for all of my children. Each one of them is a blessing from God. My homeschooling and discipline had good intentions. I never intended for any harm to come to my children. I'm sorry if I've done anything to cause them harm. I'm glad that we were able to resolve this case without my children being forced to testify. I love my children and I believe my children love me. I hope and pray that my children can stay close to each other and look out for each other since their mother and father cannot be there for them and with them. I hope the very best for my children and their future. When it came time for the children to give statements to the courts, one defended her parents. Joy Turpin, 21 at the time, had this to say: "I want the court to know that our parents loved each other and loved each of their children. They felt that God blessed them with all their children, so they kept away from the world and trusted God would guide them through life. Through the years, things became more and more overwhelming, but they kept trusting in God. I remember our mother sitting in her recliner and crying, saying she don't know what to do. She didn't want to use rope or chains, but she was afraid her children were taking in too much sugar and caffeine. Our parents didn't know we were malnourished. Our parents decided to start homeschooling all their children. I believe our parents were afraid to put us in public school for many reasons. I feel like 25 years is too long of a sentence. I believe with all my heart that our parents tried their best to raise all 13 of us, and they wanted to give us a good life. The oldest child, Jennifer, gave a statement that seems much more in line with the other children who gave interviews to the press. I'm in college now and living independently. I love hanging out with my friends, and life is great. I believe everything happens for a reason. Life may have been bad, but it made me strong. I fought to become the person I am. I saw my dad change my mom. They almost changed me, but I realized what was happening. I immediately did what I could to not become like that. I'm a fighter, I'm strong, and I'm shooting through life like a rocket." In April 2019, David and Louise Turpin were both sentenced to 25 years to life in prison, where they remain to this day. As for the Turpin children, once their parents were arrested, they were split into two groups, with the adults being placed in supportive care and the underage children being placed into foster homes. This should have been where their story ended, as the children were now free and should have been safely on the road to recovery. But unfortunately, in 2022, the 6 younger Turpin children filed a lawsuit against both Riverside County and ChildNet, the private foster care agency, alleging that they were knowingly placed in abusive foster homes. At the time of this video, a resolution to this lawsuit has not been made. The adult Turpin children didn't entirely escape hardship at the hands of the county either. Tons of support flowed in from all over the country after their 2018 rescue, with money from the donations alone totaling $600,000. However, the money was placed in a trust and the children were allegedly unable to obtain funds from the court-appointed guardian of the trust upon request. It wasn't until ABC's 2020 investigated and aired a special on the case that, according to Jordan, people started listening and doing their jobs, and the money was distributed to the Turpin children.
Tonight on Dateline, everybody get back. We have one confirmed fatality at this time. I knew. You knew she was gone. I knew it was her. She's a cute little bunny. She was just beautiful inside and out. This is murder by bombing. The husband was aware that Ildiko was cheating on him. How many other guys were there? A good 5 or 6. Elizabeth hated her. She sent Ildiko photos, which we won't show on television. What's the most common motive in human history for her? It's love. If this is intentional, I would be a person of interest, just naturally. It was one of those moments where my hair stick on the back of my neck. You thought that's the end? No. If you watch Dateline, there's always an end. That wasn't it. A bomb in a day spa and a victim with a string of lovers means no shortage of suspects. I'm Lester Holt, and this is Dateline. Here's Josh Mankiewicz with Death at the Spa. Aliso Viejo is a leafy green wedge of the suburban sprawl that makes up Southern California's mythic Orange County. It's just down the road from where the Real Housewives live their best lives. Not a lot happens in Aliso Viejo, and around here, they like that. 911, what is your emergency? Except on the 15th of May 2018, just past 1 p.m., something did happen. Something big. I heard it. I was on my lunch break at home, and I'm like, that's weird. Holly Salcedo was about a mile away from what sounded to her like a huge explosion. Others close by saw the aftermath seconds later and began recording. Wow. A 2-story commercial building had been severely damaged. Holly's coworkers confirmed it. They said, well, what street was it on? And they said, Mary Blue. When Holly heard that, she worried. Her friend, Ildiko Kraniak, owned a day spa on Mary Blue. Please, there's someone inside. Had a gas leak inside the building caused the explosion? It's an ambulance. Or could this be terrorism, either foreign or domestic? Within minutes, an Orange County Sheriff's deputy arrived on scene. Hey, everybody get back. Everybody get back. Dash camera recording. It is an explosion. There is a fire. Is anybody hurt? Two-way 3. I've got body parts. Loss of life was a guarantee. Someone had been blown literally to bits. Severed limbs lay on the ground. Debris from the building was strewn across the street. The sulfurous smell of fireworks and a plume of white smoke filled the air. Valerie Stone was at work several miles away when she heard about the explosion. She immediately thought of her boyfriend, who helped run a spa on Mary Blue Street. I was texting back and forth with Stephen. Stephen Bill was at home that day, so right after he heard from Valerie, his thoughts turned to Ildiko too. They were business partners at the spa. He texted her in an apparent panic. There was an explosion there? Ildiko, are you okay? He got no response. He was calling every number he had for her, trying to reach her, and no answer. Stephen wasn't the only one trying to reach Ildiko. Sarah Thomas had been at the spa that morning getting her lashes done. Just a few hours later, Sarah saw the building where the spa was located on the news. I didn't really know what to think of it. I just thought, oh my gosh, there was a gas explosion when I left. Did you try to contact Ildiko? I did. I texted asking if she was okay. You see it and you don't want to believe it. Either you're hoping that maybe it just looks like it's in that area. There was a news conference. My coworkers put it on. We arrived at the scene of an obvious explosion. I didn't have to listen to it. I knew what they were going to say. We have one confirmed fatality at this time. There were 2 injuries. Both were transported to area hospitals. Holly dialed Ildiko's cell phone with dread. My iPhone was going to green when it should be going to blue. I knew. You knew she was gone. I knew it was her. Police weren't saying it, but they knew the same thing. 4 8-year-old Ildiko Kranjak was dead. The 2 women critically injured had been Ildiko's clients at the spa. One of them told a first responder how she saw Ildiko open a box and then an instant later came a bright light and then darkness as the shockwave hit and the building crumbled on top of them. Orange County Sheriff's investigator Jack Ackerman had been called to the scene. To him, the explosion sounded alarmingly familiar. In March of that year in Texas, there had been a person doing package bombs. Tonight, a suspected serial bomber may have struck again. In my head, I thought maybe somebody was doing a copycat of that, so Ackerman wondered were there more packages out there, maybe headed for other targets. We started the process of trying to interview people who might be close contacts with the victims. They set up a tip line. Hundreds of calls came in, including one from Stephen, Ildiko's business partner. He possibly had information to provide us. Stephen indicated he knew Ildiko well because he was Ildiko's ex and helped her manage the spa. He told the dispatcher he tried in vain to reach Ildiko. Ackerman's team drove 32 miles north of Aliso Viejo to where Stephen lived to ask some questions and also make sure he was safe. We didn't know if the business was the target. We didn't know if Ildiko was the target. We didn't know if Mr. Bill was the target. When they got to Stephen's house, their concerns felt quite legit because some boxes had just been delivered. It was a horrific scene. A package bomb had gone off at a day spa in Aliso Viejo. A woman had been killed, 2 others injured. This isn't a town where crime is rampant or things like this happen. When things like this do happen, the FBI responds. The Bureau's Joint Terrorism Task Force mobilized. Special Agent Ashley Miracle was assigned to speak with the surviving victims. Lead Agent Nick Vicencio went straight to the scene. We had a massive debris field, a huge crime scene, and we wanted to initially come up with an investigative plan and a plan to process the crime scene as soon as possible. A bomber was on the loose and other potential targets were out there. Agent Vicencio knew timing was everything. He set up a command post, staffed around the clock. Orange County Sheriff's deputies had arrived at the home of Ildiko's business partner, Stephen Bill, and saw he'd just received some packages. Our team made quick contact with him so that we could make sure it was safe for him. They had Stephen step outside. Can they go inside and take a look at those packages? Please, right as you open the door, the packages are to the left. There's 3 and they're in a stack. Stephen sat with investigators in their car while the bomb squad went to work in his house. They were not devices. They were benign. Right? So he had been doing some remodeling in his house and he was getting packages with various items for remodeling. Stephen didn't appear to be a target. So was Ildiko. Ackerman believed the answer was yes. Based off of her injuries and our experts and the interviews with the surviving victims, it was more likely going to be a homicide. This is murder by bombing. Investigators asked Stephen the usual first question. If you were going to try to figure out who would want to hurt her or her business, who would your best guess be? I cannot come up with a single thought for who would ever want to hurt her. Of course, his own ties to Ildiko put him on the list of people to rule in or out. Stephen understood that and consented to a search of his home while he continued to talk about Ildiko. She was always smiling. She had great advice for people. She cared. She went out of her way to ease your burden. Investigators were speaking with Ildiko's friends too, and her story quickly started to emerge. Funny. Look at it. It's a cute little bunny. Look at the ears. She was just beautiful, inside and out. Ildiko was a well-respected esthetician who'd been recommended to Holly. How was she? Wonderful, from the very beginning. Wonderful, technically, or wonderful as a person, or both? Both. Both, yeah. She made me feel like a friend right from the start. Holly was going through some hard times then, and Ildiko was a good listener. They connected the same way hairdressers sometimes become a data bank of their clients' secrets. I confided in her. She confided in me. They had some things in common. They were both boy moms. She loved her son. He was number one. Talked about him all the time? Yes, just like I talked about mine. There was another frequent topic. Ildiko's relationships with men, and not just the one she had with her husband of 22 years. I knew she had her boyfriends on the side. How many other guys were there? A good 5 or 6. There was always someone. Holly didn't approve of Ildiko's affairs, but she did understand them. She just wanted to be loved, and she loved attention from men. Her husband's not one of those men? No. What was wrong in that marriage? I do believe from what she said, he was a good man. You know, he took care of her mother. Very good to her mother, but she just wanted to feel loved, and they grew apart. When Ildiko and her husband, Ranilo Vastil, met, Ildiko had recently moved to the U.S. from her native Hungary. Ildiko's cousin, Ava Boni, says their relationship was beautiful. They were a very cute couple, and they were in love. You could tell. Yes, of course. Just the warmness what they had between them. They had a son who was now in college, and along the way, something in the marriage changed. Eva wasn't sure what. She would not give me her private life, nor asking me my opinion. That was her life. Like Holly, Ildiko's friend and client, Sarah, knew about Ildiko's extramarital adventures. Did Ildiko's husband know what was going on in her romantic life? I assume so. She did make it seem like they had an arrangement. Was Ildiko planning to end that arrangement? When Sarah saw her the morning of the explosion, Ildiko talked about a man she had recently started seeing. She said, I want to be with him. I don't want to be dating all these people, and that she was going to move forward with this guy. A couple of hours after that conversation with Sarah at her spa, Ildiko was gone. Now, an intense investigation was underway into Ildiko's life. Investigators learned she had recently returned from Hungary. Agents pulled her travel info for the days leading up to the explosion, and they requested her cell phone records. They also spoke with Ildiko's husband, Ranilo, who actually found them. When the explosion happened, he came down to the scene. He tried to ask if Ildiko was okay. Those feel like the actions of a person who didn't have any involvement. It felt to us what we observed was a frantic individual looking for information. Ranilo said he was at work when his brother told him there was an explosion on Marablu, and one person had died. He said he wasn't sure if Ildiko had returned from Hungary, so he texted asking if she was back in town. Ildiko did not respond, and that's when Ranilo says he drove to Ildiko's spa. Can we tell him anything? You know, did we see if her car was in the parking lot? Investigators couldn't answer any of Ranilo's questions, so they told him to go home to the house he shared with Ildiko. We put a surveillance team on him right away, so we were watching his movements. When Ranilo made it home, Ildiko's cousin Ava met him there. I asked him, what does he know? And he said he doesn't know anything. And then came a knock at the door. 5 to 6, like a military style with a rifle, people entered the house. 48-year-old Ildiko Kranjak had been killed by an explosion after she opened a package at her day spa. Investigators had ruled out any connection to those Texas bombings and now believed Ildiko was the intended target. The big questions were, why? Who built the device and how did it get to her spa? With an explosive device, they all had their unique signatures. The chemicals, how it was contained, how it was delivered, how it was gone off. So you're kind of working from inside out to trying to find the person or persons responsible for it. FBI bomb technicians told lead agent Nick Vicencia the device that killed Ildiko was a flash powder bomb hidden inside the cardboard box. Ildiko's client saw her open right before the blast. Agent Miracle spoke with her. It's probably a shoebox height, but I don't remember it being that way. Her recollection of that was very good. As they continued to collect evidence from the debris, bomb techs were identifying the components of the explosive device. They found the jacket of a CVS brand 9-volt battery completely split open. Cells from the battery were found lodged in the ceiling right above where the bomb went off. Investigators believe that battery powered the bomb. The bomb itself tells you that you're looking for someone who has some specific, specialized skills. This is not a device that just anybody could make. Correct. We were looking for anybody with experience with chemicals and electric fusing systems. That's a fairly sophisticated piece of knowledge in both those cases. Very much so. Investigators needed to find whoever that was. The night of the explosion, what looked like a SWAT team showed up at Ildiko and her husband, Ranilo's house. Nilo, as he was called, was there with Ildiko's cousin Ava. I asked them why you guys are here. And Nilo was very calm, but I was keep asking them. And they couldn't give me any answer. They told me that we don't know anything, ma'am. Then says Ava. 20 to 25 agents went through the house inch by inch. The search continued overnight and into the next day. A news chopper captured the scene. Okay, good. Oh, got them bringing stuff out. Oh, there we go. I'm going to follow him, Aldo, with a package. When it was over, did the house look like a tornado had hit it? Yes. It was upside down. Yes. By now, it was clear to Ava Ildiko had been killed in the explosion at her spa and that law enforcement was taking a hard look at Ranilo. Did you at any point think that Nilo could be a suspect? Never, ever in my life. I mean, in this country, sadly, marriages break up and husbands kill their ex-wives. I mean, that happens. Yeah. But I would never, ever believe that that's Nilo. I would believe that the neighbor or anyone else, but not them. The investigators wanted to know a lot more from Ranilo about his relationship with his wife. Ildiko and her husband still lived together, but essentially lived separate lives. They lived in the same home. They were raising a child together. They had dinner on a regular basis together. But, I mean, Ildiko was dating men who were not her husband, and he was aware of that. I think he had a sense of it. Maybe. But during his interview, Ranilo expressed nothing but love and respect for Ildiko to investigators, and they found nothing suspicious in Ranilo and Ildiko's home. This is going to be a very difficult situation. One day after the explosion, law enforcement finally released Ildiko's name. Ava stood outside Ildiko's place as a family friend spoke to the press. This is a complete shock to family and her friends. We are in full support of our public authorities to do their jobs, in hopes of finding answers to many of the unanswered questions. Who'd want to kill Ildiko? I didn't think anybody would. You'd never heard her express any fear of anybody. No, but I knew that she had complicated relationships. I don't know, maybe somebody she was. I don't know what she was mixed up in. Maybe Ranilo did. When he spoke with investigators, he did share a couple of interesting details. There was a handyman named Max who had a key to Ildiko's spa. Ranilo quoted Ildiko as saying Max would sometimes park overnight in the lot and sleep in his car. So, we definitely wanted to talk with the handyman. When they did, nothing alarming stood out. They moved on. Ranilo also talked about a woman who'd been sending him angry messages recently. She was upset that Ildiko had gotten between her and her husband. Stephen Bill had mentioned this same couple. That'll put somebody on the radar screen pretty quickly. Yes, and it did quickly. Ildiko Kranjak had been in someone's crosshairs. As a result, she was dead. Now, investigators had heard twice about a couple Ildiko had somehow become entangled with. A couple that lived in Aliso Viejo, just a few miles from her spa. They were Elizabeth and Gabor Pap, names familiar to Ildiko's friends. Tell me about Gabor. She had a little fling with him. Holly said Ildiko met Gabor in 2015. They had an intimate relationship as far as I knew. It was a complicated relationship, too. The major complication here being that she and Gabor were both married. He thought he was going to leave his wife and end up with Ildiko. That did not happen. Instead, there was a confrontation at Ildiko's spa after Elizabeth said she found Gabor and Ildiko having sex. Voices were raised and it got physical. Unclear who started that. In the end, Gabor returned to Elizabeth. 2 years later, Ildiko poked Gabor on Facebook. According to Elizabeth, she also began seeing Ildiko drive by their home, and Elizabeth responded. She sent Ildiko some photos, which we won't show on television, but they were intimate photos, sort of taunting Ildiko that I got him, he's mine now. What did Ildiko say about getting those photos from Gabor's wife? She thought she was crazy sending another woman photos like that. Even so, Holly says Ildiko never expressed any fear of Elizabeth or Gabor. Should she have taken the history of that love triangle a little more seriously? FBI agents were wondering the same thing. Less than 24 hours, you're talking to the Paps about their relationship with Ildiko. Correct. Elizabeth told the agents a long, tawdry story about Ildiko's affair with her husband, about the shouting fight at Ildiko's spa, and about how Ildiko had tried to reconnect with Gabor. That's when the scorned wife, Elizabeth, texted the scorned husband, Ranilo. She almost destroyed my family. Enough is enough. And then this, just a month and a half before the explosion. Nilo, please ask your wife to stop contacting me or my husband. She did it again. Any contact from her is not welcome for us. Ranilo texted back, suggesting she block Ildiko on Facebook, to which Elizabeth responded, really? You're so blind that accept what your wife is doing instead of stepping up. Be a man. Elizabeth was very forthright of her feelings for Ildiko. She admitted she didn't like Ildiko, and it stemmed from an affair that Ildiko had with her husband. Correct. The Paps gave investigators consent to search their devices and their home. There was no evidence that her or her husband had any knowledge or materials to detonate a device in this manner. You didn't find anything. Nothing. No evidence of bomb making, maybe, but Elizabeth sure seemed on the verge of detonating whenever she talked about Ildiko. She told the Bureau they should have no trouble finding suspects, because the men in Ildiko's life were a never-ending revolving door, and agents knew they'd have to speak with every one of them. It doesn't sound as if Ildiko was very concerned for her own safety. She didn't think there was anything to be nervous about. Sarah, on the other hand, worried, and she couldn't help but wonder about a guy she saw Ildiko with the morning of the explosion. She came out of her room, rushed with keys and mail in her hand, and that's when the guy was starting to come towards us and she sort of shoot him off. What'd he look like? He appeared to be pretty tall, bigger, gray-haired. I asked her who it was, and she said, oh, just a friend. Ildiko didn't share any details. It was all sort of insignificant to me. It didn't seem out of the ordinary until later. Until you leave a place and a bomb goes off, then everything seems weird. Which is why she contacted law enforcement, and soon FBI agents were at her door. They asked me to try to identify who I saw that day, which I could not do. They show you any photos? Yeah, but they were like yearbook size, like this small, really grainy, bad photos on a paper like this. And so all I could tell them at the time was, it's definitely not him. Turns out the man Sarah saw that morning showed up at the spa after the explosion because he had lunch plans with Ildiko. His name was Scott Mullally, and investigators spoke with him. He told us that he and Ildiko met at a casino a few weeks prior. He dropped her off in the airport when she went to Hungary, and he offered to pick her up. Ildiko agreed, and so he picked her up from LAX the night before. They spent the evening together, and he drove Ildiko to her spa the next morning. And so there certainly wasn't any bad blood was into of that. No, when investigators looked at the video from LAX, there he was, with Ildiko, at baggage claim. He seemed to be telling the truth. Even so, they checked his records and searched his car and home. And there was this. Before landing at LAX, Ildiko made a stop at the San Francisco airport. Investigators obtained that video too. There was Ildiko, and she wasn't alone. Who was that? Investigators needed to find out. When investigators obtained Ildiko Kranjak's travel information, they saw that before landing at LAX on her way home from Hungary, she'd made a stop at the San Francisco airport. We got the airport video. We saw her coming through customs. They also saw that Ildiko wasn't alone. This turned out to be a man named Laszlo Szabo. Who was that? It was a person she was off and on dating, and she went on the trip to Hungary with. He and Ildiko flew back to the States together and parted ways in San Francisco before Ildiko caught a flight to LA and met Scott. You talk with him? Oh, yes. Laszlo told investigators he'd been in Hungary for the last few weeks, and he hadn't visited Southern California in months. Investigators had plenty to keep them busy, including Ildiko's business partner, Stephen Beal, whose house they were searching. His girlfriend Valerie said on the day after the bombing, Stephen couldn't stop thinking about Ildiko. And he's like, God, I got this weight on his shoulders. And he's really concerned about what's going on with the investigation. And so at that point, we decided to go to the police department. He comes down to our Aliso Viejo substation and says, hey, I'd like to talk to the investigators in charge of the investigation. So Investigator Ackerman from the Orange County Sheriff's Department and an FBI agent sat down with Stephen. That conversation was recorded. Real quick, before we start, I just you're here voluntarily, you came in and drove in on your own, and you just randomly start sharing bits of information about the relationship and the business. Stephen was a grandfather now, a widower with 4 adult children. He and Ildiko met in 2016 when they both swiped right on a dating app and then immediately hit it off. We went away a lot. We were exclusively dating with one another. And all of those sort of texts that you send at 3 o'clock in the morning when you can't sleep, I miss you, I wish you were here. Pillow's not the same all day. Over time, Stephen says he got involved with Ildiko's spa. We both signed the lease together, and we're building that business, and quite successfully. And while their business appeared to be thriving, their romantic relationship started falling apart. About a year and a half into it, Stephen said Ildiko seemed to be hiding something. I confronted her with some changes in her behavior, like what happened to me. Well, when we first started dating, she gave me access to, a limited account, numerous little things like this. And then she, at one point, just for seemingly no reason, she, changed her password. Stephen knew full well Ildiko was married to someone else. But until then, he thought he was the only other man in her life. Now he realized world traveler Ildiko was also a frequent flyer in the world of romance. The issue was, for me, why? And why are you trying to hide it? Because the reality is, if she had said, she'd come to me and said, I really think that I want to, open up our relationship a little bit. I don't want to be exclusive. I want to, date other men. I wouldn't say, okay, but it was hiding it that was, these seats planned to seat her as a problem. Stephen said the path of their relationship reminded him of a song. When you wake up in the morning and you're humming the Carole King song, one of us is changing. Or maybe you can just stop trying. Something is a mess. And now it was too late. Ildiko had been killed by a package bomb that ripped open their spa. Stephen once again said he had no idea who could be behind it. Your whole deal is, means, motive, and opportunity. And I don't know anybody that has the motive. What about the means? I don't know what's in my garage. I don't know what chemicals they found. So, I suppose I could probably fall into that category if the chemicals are right. Law enforcement tends to pay attention when you tell them you could be a suspect in the crime they're currently working on. And investigators who were at that moment still searching Stephen's house had found large quantities of explosive chemicals in Stephen's garage. Stephen said there was a simple explanation for that. He used to make his own fireworks and was a long-time rocket hobbyist. A friend of mine and we would build model rockets. And I started this years ago when my kids were little, and it got to be almost an obsession. And so, we built a 2 5-foot-tall, 6-inch diameter, 4-stage rocket. It had been years since he built one, he said. And those chemicals were just sitting in the garage, unused. Investigator Ackerman wanted to know more. When they do their analysis of chemicals found there, chemicals found in your realm, it would just be a coincidence if it's the same. Again, I don't remember what chemicals are around in the house because I haven't taken them down and looked at them. I haven't thought of them. I didn't even know where they were. If there's an oxidizer, I'm sure there was some sort of an oxidizer that was in the bomb that was placed, because you'd have to. And it clearly is possible that I have that oxidizer. An oxidizer meaning a chemical agent that helps ignite fuel and cause an explosion. Would someone with your type of experience be able to convert that into something on a bigger scale? I saw the devastation in the pictures and news reports. I have no idea how you would put something together that would cause something like that. Ackerman now had his doubts about that. I don't know what Mr. Beale was thinking when he came in there and talked to you, but if he was trying to get himself out of the spotlight, it feels like he did exactly the opposite. He definitely put himself as more of a person of interest as that interview went on. And Stephen Beale wasn't done. He gives us a lot of these extraneous details to things that really don't make much of anything, except for a kind of allude to what's going through his mind, maybe. Like the idea he was about to reveal for a screenplay about an assassin. I can't believe he's telling me this story. Stephen Beale had walked himself into the Aliso Viejo Sheriff's Station, and over several hours, he had talked himself into more trouble than he was already in. The whole interview is odd to me from the beginning, because why is he there? The interview had veered into some truly bizarre territory. Stephen told him about a screenplay he was writing, about a soccer mom who was a part-time assassin, and she's very good. She plans every step of the way. She covers her tracks. He also told several jokes. Then he performed a magic trick on someone in the process of investigating a murder. He did the, pull a coin from behind my ear kind of trick. You're kidding me. No, I was blown away. Unusual? Yes. Then again, Stephen was also an aspiring actor. How many more people are going to have to die before you do something useful? Stephen had worked for years as an executive consultant, he said, and was on disability now. He was apparently looking forward to turning this new, unfortunate set of circumstances into something positive, as he shared a conversation he'd had with his girlfriend Valerie after the explosion. She said, actually, when you get past all of this, you need to do a stand-up comedy routine about it, because there's a lot of really, potentially humorous anecdotes that are just wrapped up in the most intense life situations. And, the audience can relate to what you're going through, and it's delivered in a humorous manner. People love to be entertained. I've never experienced that in all the interviews I've done in my police career. I think he thinks he's outsmarting everybody. Wrong again. By then, Ackerman was not entertained. He was convinced. You said you have the means. And I look at the traditional motives of homicide, and there's a couple of motives there that stand out. And do you think that you fall into the categories of having those motives? Love gun rock? No. Loves more? No, not at all. Okay. I rely on evidence, but in my heart, you got a gut too, though. Yeah. In my heart, my gut, I'm thinking he's the one definitely who killed her. They had no evidence linking Stephen Beale directly to Ildeco's murder. However, in the search of his home, investigators found what looked like sticks of dynamite you'd see as props on a movie set. This morning we learned 9-year-old Stephen Beale was arrested on. So the feds arrested him not for murder, but for being in possession of unregistered destructive devices. Ackerman had some reservations about the arrest. He knew evidence in the case was still scarce. I wanted to get to the bottom of a homicide and not arrest somebody for having some type of devices, so you wanted to follow him around for a couple of days and see what happens. I wanted to follow him around. I wanted another chance to interview him, talk to him again at a later date, any variety of other investigative techniques. That was what I would prefer, and the Bureau wanted him locked up. Then, about a week later, Stephen Beale made headlines again. This was a very unusual move by federal prosecutors. They went to a judge over the weekend to ask that charges be dismissed against Stephen Beale. Federal prosecutor Mark Takla, the FBI lab examiner, could not rule out these items as possibly being used in rocketry. So you end up dropping the charges? Correct. And he walks out of the lockup? He does. Ildeco's friends didn't know what to think. I just didn't know if they were ever going to find the person responsible. I was very upset. I didn't understand it. You thought that's the end? No, because if you watch Dateline, there's always an end, and that wasn't it. Oh, she's right. This wasn't the end. Because a mundane ingredient of the bomb that killed Ildeco was about to become a key piece of evidence when video surfaced of this guy, purchasing a 9-volt battery just days before the bombing. It was one of those moments where my hair stick on the back of my neck. And later, a sting operation. I had to sign documents so that they could go in and put cameras and listening devices in our room. It was a nightmare. That does not point to the killer. There's not just 2 people in the room. There's like, 25? Except 23 of them are watching and listening. It was extremely stressful. For some people, finding love is easy. Others don't have the same kind of luck, like Valerie Stone. I've dated people who were still stuck on their exes, and that obviously doesn't work out. In her online dating profile, Valerie warned those guys away. Must not be stuck in the past or stuck on your ex or something like that, because I was so tired of it. You want to weed out those guys who can't move on. Exactly. I mean, who wants to be in a relationship with someone who doesn't really want to be with you? Then she came across Stephen Beal's photo, and she swiped right. So did he. A few days later, they met for dinner, and she says they instantly connected. It was great. We just no holds barred on the conversation. We talked about anything and everything, complete honesty. And right away, Stephen brought up Ildiko, his ex. He was completely upfront. He says, we're no longer dating. She's moved on. She's dating other people. Any indication he was thinking about her? Not at all. Stephen told Valerie he and Ildiko were still business partners, but that was all. I was completely okay with it. They were friends. He had nothing but nice things to say about her. I never saw anything in terms of anger towards her. And you were probably listening for that, weren't you? Oh, you bet I was. Only a month after that first date, Stephen Beal was at the center of the investigation into Ildiko's murder and had been arrested for possession of unregistered destructive devices. Okay, now, Valerie, reality check. Is there any feeling in your head saying, maybe this is not the guy I thought he was? Maybe this is not the person I should be involved with? Yes, the thought across my mind. I guess the thing is I've had so many poor relationships that, and this one was going well up until this horrific incident happened, that it was kind of like, but if he's not guilty, where could this possibly go? How good could this be? Now, maybe that sounds like I'm desperate. Desperate's not where I was going. Foolish might be where I was going. Okay. I also need to point out to you that there are other men out there, online and elsewhere, who are not targets of law enforcement. True, he didn't have handcuffs on up until that point, because that point is the point where a lot of people might think to themselves, this is where I get off the Stephen Beal Express. Yeah. And here you are. When the government dropped those charges, Valerie was there to take Stephen home, still wearing his jail-issued jumpsuit with his belongings in his hand. And you and Stephen both think, that's it, we're done, nightmare over. Yep, the next day, says Valerie, she and Stephen were running errands when suddenly they realized they had company. We're going down the freeway and I see an Orange County sheriff. Next thing I know, he's behind me and his lights are on. I was just like, oh God. I pull over. They're like, well, do you see who's in your car with you? And I'm like, yeah. And you guys released him from jail. Drop the charges. Drop the charges. What's the problem? Deputies searched their car while Valerie hit record. Those are posters. You can open them. We spent about 3 hours on the side of the road. Wow. And they brought in a bomb-sniffing dog, and I swear there were probably 13 cars behind us. They uncovered exactly nothing. To Valerie, it felt like harassment. And even though Valerie and Stephen were allowed to leave, Stephen's daughter, Charlene Brown, says she knew the search for evidence against her father was not over. They want to bring whoever did this to justice, and they clearly want it to be him. For investigators, combing through that evidence was a huge task. We continued to analyze hundreds, if not thousands of hours of CCTV footage, tens of thousands of digital media from both Ildiko, Stephen Beal, other family and friends, business records, financial records, and it takes a long time to process micro bits of evidence when a bomb goes off. Just sort of slowly building a case. We wanted to do it, right? Yeah. Then came what looked like a major clue. A deep dive into Stephen's financial records led to this purchase. We found him buying a 12 by 6 by 6 box. And we were able to obtain CCTV footage of him buying that. That was at a store right around the corner from the spa. About a week before the bombing, the box matched the description of the one the surviving witness said Ildiko was opening at the moment of her death. Then there was this. Bank records also showed Stephen Bill getting cash from this ATM. When an investigator familiar with the area saw that, he remembered that just down the street was a CVS store. He checked the store's security video, and that guy you saw at the register, it's Stephen Bill, 1 week before the bombing, buying a CVS brand single 9-volt battery and paying in cash. That changed everything for me. It was very compelling. At one point, you have to stop and say one of the coincidences stopped. That's the battery, and that's your bomber. Right, correct. What's more, investigators were now hearing stories suggesting Stephen and Ildico's relationship was not at all like the one Stephen had described to investigators. There was one night she told him she was out to dinner with Holly, and he apparently didn't take her word for it. He did not believe that she was with me, so he kept blowing up her phone, texting her, calling her. He assumed she was with another man. When we walked out of the restaurant, he was there. He was pretty angry that night. And pretty jealous? Yes. Well, stories about jealousy are not evidence of murder. And if Stephen had trouble moving on earlier, that seemed to have passed. A couple of months after the explosion, Stephen certainly seemed serious about Valerie. He wrote me a love letter, and at the end of the letter asked me to marry him. Do you have to think about it at all? Nope, I didn't. I'd moved into the house. I mean, I'd been through everything in his household. Socks, drawers. You know what I mean? You done your own warrantless search. Yeah, exactly. I mean, I did my due diligence in the house. You know, I didn't see anything that was of concern. You said yes right away. I did. Charlene approved. I think she's good for him. I think he's good for her. And she doesn't shy away from a guy who has already seen the inside of the lockup. I said to her that if you at any point decide to walk away, not that it matters what we think, but none of us would blame you. I mean, if I'd been dating someone for 4 to 6 weeks and this all happened, I'll be honest, I'd probably peace out of there, right? But she stuck around. That loyalty of Valerie's was about to be tested. You get another proposal. Yeah. This one from some guys in gray suits. Yeah. And you had to say yes to that too. I didn't feel I had a choice. Valerie Stone and Stephen Beale were engaged. He gave her a ring, a diamond solitaire. We'll see it. A little over a carat. Very nice. It is. Sometimes an engagement is when people drop by with gifts, not these guys. They pull up in a black Suburban and ask me to get in, so I get in. And they tell me, we're going to go off-site. We need to talk to you. It was the FBI. They showed up at her work and drove Valerie to a nearby park. And they say, okay, leave all your electronics in the car. Then she says 2 agents walked in one direction while the agent in charge walked in the opposite direction with Valerie. He has a file and he shows me some pictures of the inside of the building after the explosion. And then I think there was one of Stephen buying boxes or something. All of that's supposed to both horrify you as to what the crime actually was and also suggest that they have evidence that he's involved. Yeah. The feds were asking Valerie to become what they call a cooperating witness. You might call that an informant. They were trying to get me to get him to admit that he is the one who packaged up the box and that he had used the box that he had bought to make the bomb. Valerie says she believed that if she turned them down, her reputation would suffer, and she also felt it was the right thing to do. I said, I want you guys to catch the person who did this. You know, even if that's Stephen. Even if it's Stephen, I told him I didn't think it was. But if it is, I'm okay with him being locked up. It was such a horrendous crime that whoever did this to Ildico deserves to be behind bars. And if it was Stephen, it was Stephen. How would she bring herself to get the man she loved to admit to such a terrible crime? I was like, oh, well, we're doing this Malibu wine hike? Valerie says the FBI wanted in on the romantic getaway she and Stephen had planned, and they offered some free upgrades that aren't usually included in the resort fee. And they're like, okay, well, we'll pay for the hotel. So for them to pay for the hotel, I had to sign documents so that they could go in and put cameras and listening devices in our room. It was a nightmare. There's not just 2 people in the room. There's like, 25? Except 23 of them are watching and listening. You guys have fun that weekend? Not a lot. No, it was extremely stressful. Your boyfriend's thinking, this is great. We can leave all our troubles behind and have a nice weekend together. You're thinking, maybe I can get him to confess to a murder. Yeah. Are you a better or worse actress than you thought you were? Probably better than I thought I was. They also bugged Valerie's car and her phone. And it turns out they did have a gift, a necklace with a hidden listening device to be worn the entire weekend. And Stephen did not say, where'd you get that? Actually, I had a reason. I said, oh, look what I found. I hadn't seen this in forever. I thought I lost it. I mean, that to me is like you delivering for them. I was trying. I tried very hard. Agents Vicencia and Miracle were there for it. And you guys have a nice weekend? We didn't really enjoy the weekend. Perhaps because the itinerary was derailed, she brought up Ildiko, brought up the bombing, tried to get him to discuss it. Correct. And he didn't really incriminate himself at all. He didn't really talk about it at all. The FBI wouldn't give us the tape, but apparently the operation was a bust. I was doing everything within my power to get him to do something and nothing. No confession. FBI agents continued to keep a close eye on Stephen. Hi, I'm Stephen Beale. Online, they found his acting reels. I believe, though, that an actor has to have a life outside of the camera. Art illuminates life, but also life illuminates art. He spent more money getting classes and lessons than he did ever making any money from acting. Welcome to showbiz. Yeah, what do you mean by that? So when Stephen was cast in the play 12 Angry Jurors, the FBI was in the audience. We were there, too, to watch the aspiring actor play the role of a jury foreperson in a murder trial. Just remember that this is a first-degree murder charge, so if we return a verdict of guilty, the accused goes to the electric chair. The Bureau went to the play because agents were investigating Stephen's disability claims. They learned he'd been on disability for more than a decade because Stephen said he suffered from aphasia, difficulty communicating, memory loss, and an inability to read. He was able to memorize lines and recite them, which was contrary to what he was providing on the disability forms as things that he was not able to do. He had to know. He was still on the FBI's side. Yes, he did. And yes, he was concerned about it. But you can't let that stop you from living your life, something he loves to do. I don't know. Pretty interesting play that he chose to be into. Maybe a surprising choice or maybe not a surprising choice. Maybe a poignant choice. Because the message of that play is how people can believe one thing, all of them, and then it turns out what they thought they believed actually isn't true. Right. Now Stephen Beale's offstage life was about to take yet another turn. You thought this was over? I thought it was over. Heartbreaking. It was just the beginning. March 3rd, 2019. It was a Sunday. Stephen had left to run some errands. I was still in bed. He kissed me goodbye. Then Valerie's phone rang. Stephen was calling, and he's like, I've just been arrested, and then hands the phone to the special agent in charge. This time, it was the charges and not the vacation that received an upgrade. Mr. Beale was arrested pursuant to a federal criminal complaint that charges him with a malicious destruction of a building resulting in death. The charge carries a potential sentence of life in federal prison without the possibility of parole. This adds up to a murder charge in terms of what he's facing. Correct. What sort of got you over the hump? The lab finished its analysis and conclusions of all the hundreds of pieces of evidence that we submitted to them. It sounds like there wasn't any one particular thing. It was sort of the totality of everything adding up. He's in shock. And you must have been too. I really was. There's like no way. There's no way they have a case against him. And so days, weeks, months went by. Stephen Beale sat behind bars without bond. Valerie once again stood by her man. You've never felt like you were at risk by being with Stephen. Never. If all this ends with an acquittal and he walks out of jail a free man, you still have no worries. Nope. You believe him? Wholeheartedly. You love him? Yes. Do you believe him because you love him? No. No, I believe him because I believe he's not a sociopath or psychopath or murderer is the word. Yeah, he's not a murderer either. Proving that Stephen Beale was a murderer became the job of federal prosecutors Mark Takla and Anna Martine Salick. You confident you got the right person? 100%. The case finally went to trial in 2022, 4 years after the explosion. Prosecutors reminded the jury Ildiko wasn't the only victim. 2 other women have for years dealt with the medical repercussions from that blast. The government played for the jury an excerpt of a poem Stephen Beale recorded for Ildiko while they were dating. I love how when I dream of my life partner, the only person that I can see is you. They told the jury Stephen Beale was obsessed and infatuated with Ildiko, and when he learned of her deceit, he was humiliated. The government showed photos found on Stephen Beale's phone of Ildiko's text conversation in Hungarian with her San Francisco guy, Laszlo Szabo. Prosecutors said Stephen found those texts while on a trip with Ildiko just 2 months before the explosion. And so the only reason that we could determine why he would take those pictures is so that he'd get those translated later on. In those texts, Laszlo and Ildiko are discussing plans to go dancing during Ildiko's trip to Hungary. According to prosecutors, it was then that Stephen made his plan to kill Ildiko. He knew how to make rockets and fireworks, and those are the exact things one needs to know how to make a bomb. And he used that to end her life. Prosecutors also showed jurors a video investigators found of Stephen demonstrating how to safely mix explosive chemicals when making homemade fireworks. The advantage of this method is that even if you're using highly sensitive materials, this is extremely gentle and will not cause the formulation to spark or self-ignite. That shows his expertise. Hard to argue that the guy in that video wouldn't have known how to build an explosive device and could do it safely. You know, the person has to be really confident that they're able to put this thing together without killing themselves. And that is a special skill set in electrical and chemistry. The government told the jury Stephen used materials he had in his home to build the bomb, including an oxidizer, which caused the bomb's distinct grayish-white smoke. The forensic evidence was clear. The chemical residue that was found at the scene that was determined to be part of the bomb was from the same specific types of chemicals that Stephen Beale kept in his home. Prosecutors said that just days before the explosion, Stephen Beale bought 2 items to complete the bomb package: a box and that CVS brand 9-volt battery. What are the odds that somebody else purchased a battery from that lot available during that time? Same kind of battery as was in the bomb? I'm not a statistician. I can't talk to probability. But what I can say is that Stephen Beale purchased the exact same type, make, and model of battery that the evidence shows was part of the bomb. And because Stephen was involved in Ildiko business and had full access to her schedule, prosecutors said he found the perfect moment to plant the bomb, and then he waited. He repeatedly, for no reason that we could discern, was checking her appointment schedule and her Facebook account over and over on the day he knew she would be returning to the United States to the spa to see clients. And there was this, prosecutors told the jury, Stephen was searching for information online about whether a narcissist could beat a polygraph test. And so that suggested that he's thinking of a polygraph. And he thinks of himself as a narcissist. According to Stephen Beale's defense team, what that really showed was a massive case of tunnel vision. The entire force of their investigation was proving Stephen did it rather than finding out who actually killed Ildiko. And they were about to tell the jury how the government's case appeared to be a strong one, but not if you look just below the surface. Was this the murder trial of an obsessed, spurned lover? No, said his defense. Stephen Beale was simply a hopeless romantic. One of the themes is that Mr. Beale was a jilted ex-lover. It's a nice soundbite, it's great for TV, but the evidence directly refuted that. Craig Harbaugh was Stephen Beale's lead defense attorney. He told the jury the relationship between his client and Ildiko Kranjak was complex, that even after he'd moved on, Stephen still cared for her and she for him. These texts were exchanged just a couple of weeks before the explosion. Ildiko to Stephen, miss you. When do we get to cuddle? Seconds later, Stephen to Ildiko, miss you too, love. The strongest piece of evidence is Mr. Beale's total lack of motive. He said there were plenty of others with a motive to kill Ildiko, people who weren't thoroughly examined, like Elizabeth Papp, the woman who despised Ildiko for getting involved with her husband. Elizabeth hated her, wanted her out of her life, and made it very clear in all of her communications. It got to the point where Elizabeth reached out to Ildiko's husband, Ranilo. She demanded that he do something about it, challenged his masculinity when he wouldn't stop Ildiko. That was about a month and a half before the explosion. When Elizabeth took the stand, She said she had nothing to do with Ildeco's murder, even though she knew that after the explosion, law enforcement would seek her out. And when they did, the defense argued the FBI's search of the Paps' home was perfunctory at best, as demonstrated by these photos taken at the scene. The photographs are completely illegible. They're completely dark, in contrast to the hundreds of photos taken of Mr. Beale's home. The Paps, particularly Elizabeth, were dismissed too quickly as possible suspects, said the defense, as was Max the handyman, who had full access to Ildeco's suite. She was reporting her fear of Max being there. The defense pointed out to the jury that the cameras in the building were not working at the time, and a handyman would have known that. So he knew he could get in and out of Ildeco's spa without ever being seen. And of course, there was Ildeco's husband, who had some pretty obvious reasons to be angry with her. The husband was aware that Ildeco was cheating on him while they lived under the same route. And as for the government's evidence against Stephen Beale, the defense argued there were easy explanations for some of it. For example, that 9-volt battery he bought with cash, it makes sense that Stephen would have purchased that battery. Ildeco needed 9-volt batteries as a regular part of her business, and the box the government said contained the bomb, Stephen was remodeling his home, packing up his belongings and moving them around. The defense argued purchasing a box wasn't unusual. He used his Staples rewards card, not hiding who he was. The defense said the government could not prove that box had been used to make the bomb, despite one of the blast survivors saying it was very similar. And they said the chemicals the FBI found at his home were simply part of a harmless hobby, building rockets and fireworks. And as for Stephen's online research about passing a polygraph exam, the defense had an explanation. Mr. Beale had been offered an audition to be a polygrapher. That search was within days of that audition. Simply put, said the defense, law enforcement got the wrong guy. Mr. Beale is a warm, funny, kind of quirky, older man, has raised children, has grandchildren, loves his hobbies, which unfortunately, those hobbies made him a target of law enforcement here. Now, Stephen's fate was in the hands of 12 strangers, the jury. Probably he did it, but I'm not firmly convinced he did it. Probably is not good enough. Probability is not good enough. Stephen Beale's life and Stephen Beale's art were on a collision course. Just remember, this has to be a 12-0 vote either way. Anyone not want to vote? All those in favor of guilty, raise your hands. Here he was acting. In real life, Stephen was literally a captive audience, as the case against him was laid out for jurors, critics, who would have the final say. We sat down with 3 of those jurors, Maricela, Klaus, and Malcolm. He had the materials and he would have known how to do it. Yeah, absolutely he did. And I think we all agreed on that. Those were some of the first things we checked off, that no matter what side he fell on in it, we all agreed that he had the means to do it. He had the knowledge to do it. The question was whether he acted on that knowledge. That's where jurors struggled. They didn't disagree about whether Stephen had purchased a 9-volt battery, only about whether it was part of the bomb. To Klaus, there was no doubt that it was. There's only one way something gets shot into the ceiling at that kind of speed, and that's if it's sitting right on top of the thing that detonates. Maricela wasn't so sure. You were not convinced, ultimately, that the 9-volt battery was part of the bomb. Not beyond a reasonable doubt. And there was the motive or lack of one. Based on what you heard in that courtroom, was Stephen Beale obsessed with her? And was he so furious that she no longer wanted to be with him that he killed her as a result? It wasn't obvious from the testimony that he was the kind of person who would fly off the handle. I asked prosecutors about that. I don't really see the venom here from Stephen to Ildeco. Where's the text where he says, "You'll never be with another man"? Where's the text where he says, "You will pay for this"? He was an individual that was trying to win her back. And so I think that reaction that you're asking about might not have been the best way for him to interact with Ildeco to keep her in his life. That's not who Stephen Beale is. Stephen Beale is a calm, calculating individual. Stephen Beale thinks he is the smartest person in the room. Well, even the sharpest among us are sometimes tripped up by the complex details of the webs they weave. During that very first interview outside his home, you may have noticed Stephen was talking about Ildeco in the past tense. She was always smiling. She had great advice for people. She cared. She went out of her way to ease your burden. No question, she was no longer among us. But up to that point, law enforcement had not yet identified Ildaka as the person who had died in the explosion. Jurors took an initial vote, 8-4. Which way? 8-4 to convict. I said, probably he did it, but I'm not firmly convinced he did it. Probably is not good enough. Probability is not good enough. There were raised voices. There was pointing. There was some acrimony. Yeah, definitely. And then they're out forever. Not a good sign. Not a good sign. Your mind is racing and speculating, what could I have done better? Finally, jurors sent the judge a note. A hung jury. No way around it. What was that like? Horrible. I was so disappointed just for her family. The judge declared a mistrial. For prosecutors, a setback, maybe a temporary one. Was there ever any thought about whether or not you were going to go ahead and retry? No, we were always going to retry that case. For Stephen Beale, a victory. Also, perhaps temporary. Acquittal would have been better, but certainly a hung jury is better than a wrongful conviction. Stephen remained in jail waiting for another trial. That began in June 2023, and prosecutors again presented their evidence. The box, the battery, what they said was Stephen's obsession with Ildiko and his expertise with explosive materials. There was just simply no one who had that amount of overwhelming evidence against them. Not her husband, not the handyman, not anybody that she had dated, not the past, no one. Just Stephen Beale. Just Stephen Beale. This time, they concluded their case with a recreation of the explosion that killed Ildiko and played it for jurors, side by side with the video and photos of the actual aftermath at the spa. It really showed how that bomb could have gone off and what the effect on Ildiko would have been. It also matched the chemical used in the bomb, which matched the chemicals the defendant had at his residence. The courtroom was silent as the images played, complete with photos of Ildiko's scattered body parts. And the eerie piece about that demonstration was the mannequin had disintegrated, the hands and arms were blown into bits, the legs were severed from the mannequin's body in very much the same way that Ildiko was found after she died. It was a vivid reminder of what happened to Ildiko, as well as a demonstration, said the prosecution, of what Stephen Beale was capable of. To prove Stephen Beale was no murderer, this time the defense would rely on the woman who'd been by his side all those years, his fiancée Valerie. You still think he's innocent? I do. Stephen Beale's fiancée Valerie Stone had stood by him for 5 years. All I want is a not guilty verdict because I know he didn't do it. Now she would take the stand for him in court as the defense's star witness. For this trial, Stephen had a new defense team, Megan Blanco and Anthony Solis. They told the jury Stephen Beale was merely a rocket and firework hobbyist. He wouldn't have built a bomb. And they said he certainly wasn't furious enough at Ildiko to kill her. Instead, he'd moved on. And the proof of that was Valerie. He starts a new relationship. Psychologically, that is not what jilted lovers do. The defense wanted the jury to hear about that relationship directly from Valerie. We called Valerie Stone to the stand to help give the jury a better understanding of what was going on in Mr. Beale's life. And Miss Stone was able to tell the jury that he had moved on. She was able to explain to the jury what their relationship was like. Valerie testified about that wine hike in Malibu, the bug necklace she wore, and how the FBI's stay went nowhere. They instructed her to ask him specific questions in an attempt to elicit some incriminating evidence from him, and nothing came of it. Stephen Beale never said anything that ended up getting introduced. No, there's no admission. And she told the jury after that was all over, she confessed to Stephen. She'd been an informant. She says he wasn't angry at all. A horrific crime that required a lot of planning. It required a lot of emotion. And we just didn't have that. Now the case was again in the hands of a jury. In less than 2 hours, 5 years after the explosion that shook Aliso Viejo, the jury reached a verdict. Ildiko's Castaneda, I was very happy to have that, very relieved. It's not going to bring her back, but we did something together. All these people who worked on this case and helped us. After the verdict, I spoke with Valerie again. It has been, and I checked, 897 days since you and I last sat down. It's a long time. Now, during that time, a few things have happened for both of us. You moved out of Southern California to another state. I went on a big diet. I lost 70 pounds. Here's something that didn't happen during those 897 days, which is you didn't break up with him. You guys are still together. Valerie says she still believes Steven is innocent, that if he were guilty, he would have confessed during that sting she was part of. I did everything that they asked me to. They asked me to try and get him angry to see if he'd have an outburst. He never did. He was always calm, cool, and collected. Okay, it's possible I've seen too many movies, but maybe there was a reason for Steven not taking the bait. During those conversations, you hold up a piece of paper like that? Nope. You didn't warn him? Nope. Did not. Because she was on the witness list for both trials, Valerie missed a lot of what happened in court. What came next wasn't pleasant for either of us. I read her some text messages between Ildiko and Steven that were presented to the jury. Those were texts Valerie hadn't seen. If you'll recall, she and Steven started dating in mid-April 2018, and it was then he said his relationship with Ildiko was over. He was still friends with her. They weren't romantically involved any longer. Are you convinced of that? Absolutely. Building a relationship with you is the single most important period of my life. Ildiko, you rock my world. You are the woman that I've always dreamed of. I will love you forever. That was on April 22nd of 2018. Oh, wow. April 28th. He texts Ildiko, I'm also missing you. Wow. That kind of makes me feel right now. I'm sorry about that. I do want to say that perhaps not everything that somebody says in a text to somebody else has to go through a lie detector. Yeah. Sometimes, I know it's going to come as a shock to you. Men say things to women that are not 100% true. Sorry. No. I really need to reevaluate things. I mean, it's been 5 years alone and hoping. Yeah. You owe yourself something here too. Not just him. Valerie now says she's ready to move on. In January 2024, 4-year-old Steven Beal appeared in court again, this time to hear his sentence, which was, Ava spoke outside the courthouse. After 5 years of waiting and wondering, our family and friends had peace in knowing that Mr. Beal will spend his remaining days in prison. She will live forever in our hearts and never be forgotten. What do you miss most about her? Her calling and checking on me like every day that, what are you doing? You come over, we go here and there, and then just her laugh. She has this energy that you go in and you depress and you leave the salon and you're flying because she will bring up something positive about your A. So go see Ildiko and come out feeling great. Yes, exactly. For Ildiko's loyal client/friend, Holly, that's exactly the way Ildiko made her feel. She was a sunshine in some of my darkest days, and I just miss her and love her. That's all for this edition of Dateline. And check out our Talking Dateline podcast. Josh Mankiewicz and Andrea Canning will go behind the scenes of tonight's episode. Available Wednesday in the Dateline feed wherever you get your podcasts. We'll see you again next Friday at 9, 8 Central. I'm Lester Holt for all of us at NBC News. Good night.